We need to talk about this new way that our phones have been able to spy on us. So research recently revealed that our smartphones' ambient light sensors might be used into a camera to take photos of our surrounding areas at all times. And you guys know we pretty much use our smartphones everywhere, so that's pretty concerning. We're constantly hearing of new sneaky ways our phones are being used to steal our data and information without us knowing. And I spend hours on my phone every day researching and editing, so clearly my privacy has been at risk. And this is why it's always recommended to have a security app installed on your phone. To be more safe and protect my privacy, I began using Malwarebytes, which completely protects me from anything sketchy like this. Malwarebytes catches and crushes tons of potential concerns even if you already have an antivirus, anti-malware, or other cybersecurity softwares installed. It also includes a VPN, which is unheard of. Malwarebytes offers web protection, call protection, ad blocking, text protection, and even identity theft protection. At the end of the day, it's important that we have an extra layer of protection on our phones because you all know we keep so much on these things. This app is available for download on iOS and Android, both offering a 7-day free trial, so stay safe and make sure your devices are properly protected.
This 14-year-old boy S8 his 83-year-old neighbor. Viewers' discretion is strongly advised. On August 29th of 2018, 14-year-old Tyrone Harvin told his 83-year-old neighbor, Dorothy Mae Neal, that he would help her with some chores inside of her apartment. Before walking into her apartment, he made sure to grab a handful of condoms. Tyrone did help Dorothy with some chores before attacking her with a lamp. After that, Tyrone S8'd her, he fled her apartment, and he left her seriously injured on the floor and naked. Neighbors had asked police to do a welfare check on Dorothy since they hadn't seen her around for a couple of days. When officers showed up at her apartment, they noticed dried blood on her doorknob, and that's when they saw Dorothy lying naked on the floor. She was then taken to the University of Maryland Hospital Trauma Unit and unfortunately passed away that next day. When officers were at Dorothy's home, they noticed that there was several condom wrappers around her body as well as used condoms. A broken, bloodied lamp was also found by officers. Dorothy's autopsy revealed that she suffered extensive trauma to her head and genitals. There was DNA on Dorothy's body and in those condoms, and that DNA matched up to Tyrone. Despite all of the evidence, Tyrone's mom stood by his side and truly believed that he would never do something like this. On June 29th of 2022, Tyrone was convicted on first-degree murder, first-degree SA, and use of a deadly weapon. Tyrone was also sentenced to life in prison.
This whole Stephen Hawking's being on the list reminds me of a conspiracy I heard. That Stephen Hawking wasn't even actually a real person, but a character. So before he had a robot talking for him, he had a translator.
Stephen, when did you first realize you wanted to be a physicist?
I think I knew from about the age of 9 or 10 that I wanted to be a scientist, or model railways, or playing complicated games. I was aimed in some way at finding out how the world worked around me.
People are questioning how someone translates those grunts into actual sentences. It just doesn't add up to them.
I think I knew from about the age of 9 or 10 that I wanted to be a scientist.
Like, how is that being translated? It's like Han Solo translating for Chewbacca. Now, kinda how the media uses children as shields, people believe that Stephen Hawking was used as a shield, that he was an actual person with actual ALS. But if people questioned anything he said, like his research on the Big Bang Theory, and attacked him for that, oh, how dare you attack somebody with ALS? How dare you attack somebody that's crippled? Kinda how the media use children today and go, how dare you attack a child whenever an angry mob questions their opinion. People are less likely to do so because of that. It's called empathy. But what do you think? Was he just a puppet? Or can you really translate grunts like that?
Worst Ways People Have Died Part 6. On September 4th, 2006, Steve Irwin, the beloved Australian TV personality and animal expert, was struck in the heart by a short-tailed stingray while swimming in extremely shallow waters in the Great Barrier Reef. On November 27th, 2014, Philip Hughes was struck in the neck by a bouncer during a cricket match. His cause of death was vertebral artery dissection. Mark Frederick, a professional baseball player and pitcher for the Detroit Tigers, died while working underneath his pickup truck when his clothes became entangled with the power takeoff shaft, suffocating him to death. Don't forget to like the video and follow me, and comment down below what you guys want to see next.
These are some extremely unsettling facts, and I found all of these on Reddit. American serial killer John Wayne Gacy was known for dressing up as a clown and murdering his victims, but it gets much worse than that. You see,
This woman lost her life after eating sushi that had mushrooms in it. 64-year-old Donna Ventura was rushed to the hospital after visiting Dave's Sushi restaurant in Montana with her husband and friends. But Donna did not get food poisoning from the raw fish. Instead, she had their special roll, which contained uncooked morel mushrooms. Within only an hour of Donna consuming the sushi, she was in so much pain and was taken to the hospital. This poor woman suffered multiple organ failures and went into cardiac arrest. Then she passed away 12 days later. According to the health department, Donna got food poisoning from the morel mushrooms, which they said that a lot of people don't know that if it's not cooked properly, it can be lethal. And it turns out that these mushrooms had previously gotten at least 50 other people sick at this restaurant. Donna's husband said that her last moments consisted of excruciating pain, so much that she had to communicate through writing. And the last thing that she wrote to him was that she was in too much pain and she couldn't go on much longer. Her husband filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Dave Sushi, but the restaurant denies any wrongdoing.
Worst ways people have died, part 1. This, my friends, is exactly why you should be careful at an amusement park. This is James Young. He had just recently went on a roller coaster and realized when he got off he lost his wallet, keys, and phone. Completely disregarding the security barricades, he jumps the fence. James doesn't realize that the ride is still going. He bends down when he finds his cell phone and then is immediately struck by the roller coaster, killing him directly on impact. If you ever lose anything in an amusement park again, just ask someone. Don't end up like James.
This man followed a teen and her grandmother who were on a trail, and then he took their lives. In 2021, 17-year-old Hera and her grandmother, 78-year-old Zanetta, were found deceased in their home in Largo, Florida. Earlier that day, Hera and her grandmother went on a walk on the Pinellas Trail not too far from their house. On their way home, 19-year-old Sage Curry followed them to their house. He waited for the sun to go down before entering their home through the bedroom window. Sage then went into the kitchen and looked for the sharpest knife he could find and used that to attack the grandmother as she slept. Hera ran into the room after hearing her grandmother scream, and she was also stabbed to death. What's insane is that there was no relationship between the victims and Sage. He literally did this for absolutely no reason. His family said that his mental health declined after his 18th birthday and he became delusional, so much that he couldn't tell fiction from reality and believed that TV shows he watched were real. While he sat in jail, he got this moon tattooed on his forehead, which referenced a TV show character who had DID. Sage also got one of the victims' names tattooed on his ankle. In court, he really tried to use the insanity defense, but that was rejected. Sage was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
This massive billboard fell, killing 14 people. A large billboard in India collapsed the other day due to severe raging thunderstorms, and it sadly killed 14 people and injuring another 75. A rescue operation took place on Tuesday morning, and Indian authorities said they rescued 89 people since the accident occurred. The rain and wind caused by the storm made the 100-foot tall billboard fall onto a gas station in a suburban area. You can find videos on social media of the billboard shaking back and forth before giving away and falling onto the gas station, crushing people and cars. The video isn't graphic, but knowing what happens to the innocent people when the billboard falls and hits the gas station make it a very eerie and disturbing watch. But if you want to find it, you can easily watch it on X. Keep in mind, this billboard was 100 feet tall, so it was like a literal building falling onto these people. 32 people who were injured from this unfortunate situation have already been discharged from the hospital, but many more are still in there. May everybody rest in peace who died in this unfortunate situation, and may the surviving people with injuries have a speedy recovery.
But what exactly is going on here? Why are these artists so comfortable with telling you guys that you're going to hell?
So let me explain something to them real quick. Before everybody starts screaming and saying, oh, like I told y'all earlier, you motherfuckers enter the rapture. And if ain't nobody flying up to heaven right now, obviously all y'all motherfuckers going to hell. Right with me. So Let's get it. I'm so sorry, you can't get out. You're stuck, it's over. You heard the song a million times and you didn't even know.
And then say you're still gonna listen to their music anyway, so why even bring it up?
We bring up the when people say like devil worshiper or anything, but how's the music? Because it'll be a motherfucker that'll be like, Uzi, get with God. And then I'll drop a song and like, damn.
Comment amen right now to ward off any evil spirits coming from these videos. And what's up with everybody doing this hand symbol? Like, this was never a trend. I never saw any of my friends doing this pose. What does it mean and what are you trying to say? And I don't want to hear this just a pose. It's not like the peace sign. And check this out.
I was hitting a block, right? I was like, oh, I'm not doing it right? So I went in the corner and then I was looking at the wall and I was like, come on, devil, right? Come to me, because I had to do something like crazy, right? Had nightmares for a month.
So let me get this straight. You really need to call upon the devil in order to help you act better for a role. Again, we can't act oblivious like something weird isn't going on here. But let me know, am I tripping? Am I crazy? And make sure to follow because part 2 is about to get a lot more crazy.
Facts that will definitely make your skin crawl, part 5. Homicidal sleepwalking. This is the act in which you commit murder while sleepwalking. This happened to someone named Jules Lull, who was acquitted of the murder of his father when the police found that he was actually sleepwalking.
Here.
Disturbing things caught on GoPro camera PT.2.
Here are 3 of the most disturbing police sketches and the chilling backstories behind them. Number 1 is Mr. Cruel. This is an unknown man who was never caught but was a serial child predator who was targeting Australia through the late 80s. Described as a brutal assailant, he was also very cautious to conceal his identity and was always seen wearing a tightly fitted ski mask so that his victims could only see through to his eyes. Number 2 is the Eerie-Eyed Man. This is an infamously haunting sketch of a repeat window voyeur who had at least one credible account of entry and and assault of a woman. Reported in 2016 and made famous for the unsettling features and disturbingly oversized eyes, this sketch is a haunting reminder that the suspect has never been caught and is still out there somewhere. Number 3. I actually find this one really difficult to look at for some reason. It's just very upsetting and distressing. This is actually a sketch of a suspect who would later be known as the Baton Rouge Killer. Initially a miss, police believed they were looking for a white male when in fact they would be looking for a suspect named Derek Todd Lee. But despite the sketch looking very different from the actual suspect, what's really eerie about it is that this is the expression that the victim remembers seeing on the suspect's face on the night of the attack. I don't know if it's the slightly distorted features or it's that kind of emotionless stare, but there's something about this picture that just doesn't sit right.
Breaking news, a woman who has been missing since 1992 has been found alive. The woman's husband said he reported her missing in 1992 and she was a Pittsburgh street preacher known as, quote, the Sparrow. He said he came home one night and she was gone and nobody knew where she went. Her husband said that she had some mental health issues and claimed she wanted to go to Puerto Rico where it was warm. He said it's been almost 31 years and it cost him a lot of money putting out advertisements, even some he put out in Puerto Rico. He said he never imagined she would end up right where he thought she would be. He was recently contacted by an Interpol agent who said they believe they had located his wife in Puerto Rico at an adult care home. Individuals who work at the facility said that the woman was found in June of 1999 and needed care. However, they said the woman refused to share her personal life with anyone, and years later, after suffering from dementia, she started to divulge information. Shortly after, they were able to put the puzzle pieces together and through DNA determined that it was the missing woman. Her husband is not the only living family member that she has. Her sister says she is shocked by the news as well. Authorities said it took about a total of 9 months to figure out who she was. At this time, they have not provided any further details, but I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments.
The most unbeatable horror movie characters ever. Number 1, Jason Voorhees. Undead human, superhuman strength, and immortal. And also has that weird thing where if you're in his sights, you're done. There isn't anywhere Jason won't go to unalive you. He will go to the ends of the earth to make sure you never come back. It is 100% impossible to survive. You then have Art the Clown. Now, we've seen Art the Clown get packed up in multiple instances, yet still comes back. On top of the fact that he is so sick and twisted, he enjoys what he does. He just toys with it. He doesn't actually care about doing it. He knows he'll get it done. He just likes to have fun while doing it. And I think that's the scariest part. You then have Leatherface. Not superhuman, not immortal, but still, we've seen Leatherface take some crazy hits, and yet still comes after you with that chainsaw. I'm quite sure there is nothing Leatherface can't go through, besides another horror movie character, in order to get done what he needs to get done. And finally, you have Death from Final Destination. Once you're on the list and see something absolutely insane happen, you are next. You can put people in front of you, yes, but I don't think that would make much of a difference because at some point in time, your time is coming.
An Algerian man who was kidnapped 26 years ago was found only like a few minutes walk from his family's home, being forced to be in a hole underneath hay bales. This is like the wildest story I have maybe ever read. This is Omar bin Omran, and he disappeared on his way to a charter school in 1998. His family obviously thought that he had been unalive. And then on May 12th, they got a tip on social media that he was actually in the neighbor's house being held captive. They stormed the house and found him. Looking back, the family says that his dog, that Omar's dog, was trying to get into the family house for weeks after he disappeared. But they never in a million years thought that he would just be down the street. And the only way he was discovered was because the family of the captor got into a huge fight. And the only reason why he was even discovered was because the captor's family was in a huge fight over an inheritance. And a family member of the captor took to Facebook and said, this guy that you've been looking for, Omar's at my cousin's house. He had been living underneath a sheep pen, but all his physical health is fine by reports. When he was asked why he didn't make noise or try to get away, he only responds that he couldn't speak or walk. So I think they're learning more about what was going on. Have you guys heard this story yet? It's absolutely insane. I'm so glad that this man is safe.
The murder of Kaylee Gonsalves was quick, meaning that she didn't slowly bleed to death after being stabbed multiple times. And this is new information that we are learning from her dad, Steve Gonsalves. Kaylee's father has been releasing more and more information about these brutal Idaho college murders. You'll remember that he was the one who actually alerted the public to the fact that Kaylee's wounds were significantly more brutal than the other 3 victims in the house. Police have been very careful about what details they are giving the public, and they're not even telling the families of the victims many of the details about the crime scene. However, the information about Kaylee's specific body and her injuries have been given to Steve, he says, from the coroner. So what we're learning now is more about the extent of Kaylee's brutal stab wounds. And Steve says that he was told by the coroner that Kaylee's lungs and liver were both punctured in the stabbing. He added that the coroner described these injuries as less like a stab and more like a tear, calling them big open gouges, which indicated to the medical examiner that Kaylee bled out very quickly. Steve says it was the coroner who also alerted him to the fact that Kaylee's wounds were significantly more severe than her best friend Maddie, who died in the bed right next to her. The state of the victims' bodies can tell investigators a lot of different things. In this case, in Kaylee's instance, the severity of her wounds could indicate to investigators that she was perhaps the intended target or she was the first person murdered.
Rules to surviving a horror movie. Number 1, avoid any large old houses. Take this into account. People who moved into the Conjuring house, you had to have known something odd is going on there. You can also take into account the Amityville horror. You find out people were unalived in that house, yet you still move in. Granted, you probably didn't know all of the information, but moving into an extremely old house that definitely has history, on top of being pretty big and the price being lowered, it says something. Number 2, never follow behind a massive truck carrying logs. Now I know that sounds dumb, but if you've seen the first Final Destination, you know that's how it pretty much starts. There's a massive truck with logs, they fall off, people get unalived while driving, and it could have been all avoided if you just didn't follow right behind that truck. I still to this day when I'm driving will never follow behind a truck that's carrying logs. Number 3, don't trust any toys or robots. We see this in accounts of Chucky and Megan. Now Megan was cool at the beginning, right? And then she turned on her person because she was trying to overprotect her. You then have Chucky, who was just supposed to be a doll for a little boy and turns out to be a massive unaliver, trying to unalive him and his family. It just goes to show you can't even trust toys nowadays. Don't forget to like and follow for more.
We need to talk about the infamous Russian pedophile and snuff film ring. So just so I'm factually correct, here's the article I'm talking about here. So in the year 2000, a massive scandal rocked Russia. In that year, Russian authorities uncovered a pedophile ring that ran all the way from Russia to the United States. There were over 5,000 members that were busted in different countries, but the exact details of these crimes are really hard to stomach, so viewer discretion is advised. Obviously, the police and authorities had to watch some of this content that was uncovered, and what they saw was absolutely disturbing. They saw hundreds of different children being abused by groups of men, and on top of that, after the abuse was over, these children were then brutally tortured and killed on camera. Now, something extremely disturbing is that these videos made over $470 million worth of revenue. Just stop and think about that for 1 second. Just stop and think about how much money that is that people were paying to watch these videos. There were people in the US purchasing these tapes, there were people in the Middle East, people in Russia, people in Italy. And in fact, when they were covering this news story, 2 European TV stations accidentally broadcast images and video from the tapes. Graphic, uncensored material. Obviously, the whole team that was involved in that was fired. But the police officers and authorities who actually worked on this case have gone on the record and said every single night since then they still hear children screaming in their dreams. So these rings operated throughout many different countries, including Italy, Russia, all throughout the Middle East. And what the authorities think they were doing was snatching children out of orphanages and even at times targeting kids when they walked away from their parents at the circus. Now, thankfully, hundreds of people were arrested after this was uncovered and justice was dealt. And thankfully, Russia's prison system is pretty brutal, so I'm sure that the men who were put in there for these crimes got the justice that they deserved. But this is absolutely frightening because this stuff is still happening today in 2024. It's not just happening in Europe, it's happening in America. There's so much more we could get into here. But yeah, we need to continue to talk about this stuff to raise awareness that this is happening.